Baltimore. We have to change.
We have a national reputation of the deadly city in America. Enough is enough.
Is Baltimore content with the annual memorials of hundreds of murdered loved ones each year?
I ain't got nothing. I ain't got nothing. No peace. No justice. No peace.
It's so unfair.
You know what I mean? These are kids, and these children need help.
Those who do not learn from the past are doomed to repeat it.
Baltimore has the unfortunate distinction of being one of the most dangerous cities in America, with a murder rate of more than 300 people a year. And it's not just murder, it's carjackings, it's assault and break-ins. And the victims involved aren't numbers, they're people. Someone's family member, someone's neighbor, someone's friend.
In Baltimore City, it's hard to find someone who's not been affected by the crime being committed on city streets. Police used to say those involved had ties to criminal activity, but you're not hearing that as much nowadays because many of the victims are law-abiding citizens.
Get you, we're coming up to 3.
In this nation's deadliest big city, violence can tower over any corner. In Baltimore this past year, no one seems immune to the violence.
Baltimore police are investigating several weekend shootings. In South Baltimore, a homicide investigation is underway.
Police are investigating a shooting along Edmonton Avenue.
Another person was killed in a double shooting in Northeast Baltimore. Investigators are searching for the suspect who shot a man in Federal Hill.
Baltimore City 911.
In April, a high school senior is shot 13 times over spring break. In May, 2 toddlers are shot. Baltimore's deputy police commissioner and his wife even fall victim as they're robbed at gunpoint.
My wife and I are very fortunate to be safe. So many in our community are suffering from far more. And the commissioner has outlined extensive plans to push his police department and his community forward.
Baltimore is a city in crisis, struggling to cope with a spike in violent crime that began in 2015, following the death of Freddie Gray and days of unrest. Since that time, murders, carjackings, and robberies have skyrocketed in the city, as well as the number of non-fatal shootings. Hundreds of people shot on the streets of Baltimore.
Through the chest, through the abdomen, through the pelvis.
Those are the shooting injuries people survived.
The violence in the city, despite everybody's best efforts, it's not better.
Dr. Thomas Scalia would know. As a surgeon at Baltimore's top trauma center, he is often in the operating room.
This is a completely life-changing event that happens in a matter of seconds.
That event has created a growing population of survivors who've been shot.
I did everything to keep him from this, and it still found him.
It happened to Larry White, the high school senior shot over spring break. The teen's goal was to graduate from high school and attend college. After the shooting, his goal became survival.
I got shot 3 times in the face, I believe 3 times in the back, a couple times in my leg, and twice in my groin area.
8 bullets are still in Larry.
It's just sad. Like, it's just sad. And I hate it. I hate it so much. I don't understand why him. Like, it's just, I hate it. I hate it. I'm sorry. I do. I just hate it.
2-year-old Chase also survived. He was the most seriously injured of the 2 toddlers shot in May along a busy city street.
Right now, it's a gamble. It's still a gamble as long as he's in intensive care.
The story is not done at all when they leave the hospital. In some ways, the story's just beginning. We got them through this so they can have a story.
For hundreds of others.
1, Karim Bonner. Number 34, Owen Creighton.
Their story has ended in heartache.
82, Paul Smith.
Names of victims.
342, James Woodard.
661, Keith Patterson.
Who've been murdered in a city that more than $1 billion has been funneled into to fight crime. Baltimore has seen its 5th straight year of more than 300 murders.
1000, Daniel Mulhausen.
Daniel Mulhausen died in 2017, one day after Christmas. In the months that followed the killing, we heard the future Mulhausen's father always imagined for his son.
Mulhausen Automotive. My dream was coming together. Obviously, there's something going on with the brake pad. The other choice is to have it towed. And I was going to back out of the picture and let my two kids run my business.
Daniel taking over the family garage with his brother by his side. A family's dream shattered by a repeat violent offender.
I routinely don't come over this side of the shop, but yeah, a couple times a week I will come past and look at it and just wonder, what if?
What if his son wasn't in Baltimore City that night?
The bullets went through the quarter panel here. One was there, one was here. There was one here that was cut open to try to retrieve the slug. There's one that went right through here after it busted the glass. One through the tail lights, one right here above the Suzuki sign, one right up here through the brake light, of which continued on through the center of the vehicle into the rear view mirror, and they were all placed right in the exact spots they needed to be to take my son out.
It's a scenario hundreds of families in Baltimore have faced. And in hundreds of cases, a violent repeat offender pulled the trigger. Brian Hanna is the man police arrested in Mulhausen's murder. When officers arrested him, he was already serving a jail sentence for assaulting a Baltimore police officer. Body-worn camera footage recorded the arrest. Hanna's case highlights a threatening reality. A violent repeat offender back on the street after receiving a light sentence. Instead of a 2-year sentence, the judge gave Hanna 30 days for assaulting that officer, a sentence he was allowed to serve over weekends. And it's during that time, officers rearrested him for Mulhausen's murder. Fox 45 began to investigate judges' sentences and found there was a systemic problem. A review of more than 9,000 sentences over a 3-year period found 62% of them fell below the state's own sentencing guidelines.
This is an issue that I have been out there talking a lot about for more than a year, about the leniency of particularly Baltimore City judges.
They don't even fear a damn guilty verdict, because the guilty verdicts in this city are suspended all or most of the time.
Politicians will usually charge judges with being soft on crime. That's an old story.
For Maryland's governor, lenient sentences are a constant story. Governor, what do you think needs to happen to turn Baltimore around at this point?
We've really got to do something to keep the repeat violent offenders off the streets, because it's a small number of Baltimore City criminals who are committing the most violent crimes repeatedly.
So is it fair to say that you do believe the courts are playing a role in driving the crime that we're currently seeing in Baltimore?
There's no question about that.
Others in Baltimore say prosecutors and police are responsible for the violence. The Baltimore Police Department is currently under a federal consent decree. The department is facing a shortage of officers and low morale. Also, an adversarial relationship between police and prosecutors. It stems in part from this announcement made by City State's Attorney Marilyn Mosby. Her office won't prosecute laws that are on the books.
There is no public safety value in prosecuting marijuana possession. Furthermore, there is no link between marijuana possession and violent crime.
You see this? Oh my God. It never ends.
This is just one of the drug cases prosecutors drop. A former police commissioner sees it as a slap in the face.
If you're not going to prosecute crimes, why are we in business? Why is there a police department? Why are they stopping anybody?
Meanwhile, the violence continues by the easy access to guns and those illegally possessing them.
Change the culture and the mindset in the city that the way to settle a dispute is with a gun.
Remember Brian Hanna, the man arrested for assaulting an officer and killing Daniel Mulhausen? Prior to those cases, Hanna did time for attempting to kill a man with this weapon. In 2017, Hanna was considered a felon, forbidden to possess a handgun. Yet even he was able to get one illegally.
Stuff that nobody needs to get shot. There's nothing in the rules that says that anybody in the city of Baltimore has to get shot.
On average this year in Baltimore, 21 people a week have been shot.
The older I get, the harder it gets.
Some families have seen generations of loved ones.
Thy kingdom come,
Thy will be done.
Lost to the violence.
Lead us not. But deliver us from evil.
How many more parents am I going to have to tell their kids aren't coming home? It's just emotionally draining.
In a city under attack by violence, its people are also overwhelmed with trash. If you walk around Baltimore, sadly, this is what you'll often find. Lots like this in alleys filled with waste and residents frustrated trying to get rid of it.
Yeah, Kai, and the people in this neighborhood have called repeatedly, and yet you can see the trash, it still remains. Residents are frustrated and forced to take matters into their own hands. The majesty of Baltimore's Inner Harbor is just a glimpse of Charm City. But walk a few blocks in any direction and the charm can be difficult to find.
Tons of trash.
It's a constant dumping site.
Tons of liquor bottles. We saw a needle over around the corner.
Wow, that's all the way up to the door.
I'm over it, tired.
He pulls up right here in the middle of the alley, right? Dumps it.
Ranging from illegal dumping to a culture of litter.
See, he just threw something down.
Baltimore's trash troubles have reached a crisis level.
You got grass is high. You got concrete in the back of the yard.
Activist Terry Boykins is fighting crime by fighting grime.
Yeah, we got a lot of pride. We trying to move up.
West Baltimore's Allendale community, where more than 35% of residents live below poverty. More than 20% are unemployed. It's also where Boykins has made it his mission to clean up his community.
9 calls. I put it for 301. I had to call that house in again. Then I think I called that house, them 2 houses down there. I called that lot down there. I called for store drains to be cleaned.
It's a problem that's gone on for years. In fact, in 2018,
man, I got about 19 bags down there.
We visited Boykins just down the street at another illegal dumping site.
Like we keep on hollering help, but we're not getting no answer.
From West Baltimore to North Baltimore, the piles of trash, debris, and overgrowth are similar across the city.
This one's really overgrown. I mean, we're seeing, I don't know, it looks like a video game, some old VHS tapes. Obviously somebody's dumped something here. Coffee containers.
The systemic challenges of the city's trash woes made national attention this summer when President Donald Trump lashed out against Congressman Elijah Cummings by degrading his district on Twitter, calling Baltimore a, quote, disgusting rat and rodent infested mess. In a series of tweets that lasted days, the president said, quote, no human being would want to live there. The tweets, meant to attack Cummings, caused outcry across the city.
I think that was really inappropriate. If he has some issues with him, he needs to take it up with him.
Talking about our city.
Yeah, talking about our city.
Oh, I ain't even gonna comment on that.
We feel that y'all don't care about us.
In the immediate aftermath, cleanup groups from across the country trekked to what the president called a dangerous and filthy place, looking to not only make a difference, but to inspire civic pride.
You know, just want to help out.
We want the local community to step up.
I started seeing local videos from people that live here showing how bad it was and talking about how bad it was, and I couldn't believe it.
While the nation got a glimpse at Baltimore's plight, the problems plaguing the city's streets, alleys, and vacant lots are nothing new for residents. Last fall, then Mayor Catherine Pugh walked the streets, disgusted with what she saw and smelled.
What the hell? We should just take all this down. Ooh, you can smell the rats.
This used to be a nice, beautiful neighborhood. As time goes on, it starts deteriorating. Look like people don't care.
Louise Brogdon has lost most of her neighbors over the decades she's lived in West Baltimore.
It used to be a whole lot of homeowners in this block, but when they die out, leave it to the children. The children don't want to rent it out, don't want to sell it. They just let the city take over. And that's why you see so many abandoned houses today.
Abandoned homes, empty lots, lack of home ownership. According to Bloomberg Distinguished Professor of Economics Matthew Kahn, they're all contributing factors in the war on litter and illegal dumping.
Because Baltimore has so much public property and there's abandoned homes and vacant homes, there's many opportunities for illegal dumpers to dump stuff. And so this poses a great challenge to the city.
According to the city's Department of Public Works, more than 10,000 tons of waste is dumped illegally each year. In 2018, there were more than 47,000 service requests across the city regarding illegal dumping, and more than 380,000 requests to clean vacant properties, abate rats, and clear alleys and storm drains. With nearly 700 solid waste staff members servicing 200,000 households, Khan says the city can't keep up with demand.
My answer for what is effective government is when a new problem arises, what's the bang per buck? How quickly does the problem vanish?
For Allendale's Terry Boykin, the city never did take action.
It's been a problem because you complain about it to the city and they don't seem to answer the call. And so when the city don't listen to the people from the inside of living in the community, then you got a problem.
Among his service requests to Baltimore's 311, one vacant lot on Loudoun has been particularly troubling. The request left open for months.
The lady next door, she's 80 years old, and nobody want to live next door to a whole lot of grass up high.
You see, we only working with what we got. I think we got 3 rakes, 2 brooms, trash bags.
Eventually, the home on Loudoun did get cleaned up.
Wonderful.
But not by the city.
Oh, these are volunteers. These are volunteers.
I don't believe the city is doing their job because if they was doing their job, it wouldn't be here today.
By chance, they chose to clean up the same lot Boykins had reported so many times before.
Y'all poured all this stuff out with your hands?
Every bit of it.
Man, you better give me another shake on that.
Yes, sir.
You better give me another shake on that.
And our
You
slogan
pulled that
is-
out with your hands? You ain't had no machinery?
No, nothing.
Get out of here.
Yeah.
And the city got a machinery and can't get it done?
It took more than 4 months, but after the volunteer cleanup, the city finally hauled the waste away.
That is not acceptable. The economist in me would like to know if that had occurred in a white neighborhood, in a rich neighborhood, would it have been cleaned up faster?
Economist Matthew Kahn says it's time for drastic measures to change the mentality and get tough on fines and enforcement. But he also says the city needs to take ownership and come up with a plan that works.
Let's have a discussion of what are the 5 or 10 best ideas for reducing litter, and let's ask the mayor and Councilman Scott to consider running a pilot program, to have a horse race to see which of these ideas are most effective.
In its 2018 report, the Department of Public Works reported that behavior change is essential in our efforts. But at a crisis level, community members like Boykin are tired of watching volunteers do what they say their tax dollars should be paying for.
Y'all doing a wonderful job. Appreciate y'all.
There's also a lot more that needs to be done.
There's no jobs, there's nowhere to go.
People are not going to the Inner Harbor like they used to.
There's nothing going on here for these folks to focus on.
There are too many young people that want to be the gangster, the hustler. But I want them to want to be the surgeon, the doctor, the radiologist, the engineer.
They don't got no compassion to even want to look out for us when we out there hustling.
Squeegee kids have been a source of frustration for some recently.
Window wash mine, I got you.
No, thank you.
Tourists, workers, and residents waiting at red lights are approached by squeegee kids looking for money in exchange for cleaning windshields. Most just happy to make a few dollars. But some have gotten violent when drivers turn them down.
They started throwing squeegees and stuff at me. They hit me in the back of the head with a squeegee. Banged the car more with them after I got in. Broke off. It hit her in the lip, bust her lip open. And they took off running after that.
They're putting the fear into people. You know, if you don't pay them, then they do stuff to your car or, you know, yell profanities at you.
Police officers are told to leave the squeegee kids alone. No citations given, as the city looks to businesses to help fund plans to get the squeegee kids off the streets. Kirby Fowler is with the Downtown Partnership. Do you believe the violence that's been occurring in recent years in Baltimore is either deterring businesses from coming here or having an economic impact on businesses that are here now?
Well, it's hard to know because rarely does somebody say, I'm not coming here because of violence. They may come up with some other reasons, but rarely do they come out and say that directly.
Here's what we do know about the city and its economy. According to census data, Baltimore's unemployment rate was about 5.7% in July of 2019, 1.5 times the state and national average. The median home price in Baltimore is $180,000. Nationally, it's $310,000. Residents might be showing their disappointment with Baltimore with their feet by leaving the city. Remember the Coles? They decided to leave Baltimore after the squeegee attack. The Coles now live in Pennsylvania. Their departure is contributing to a slow loss of residents in Baltimore. The population is now just over 600,000 people, a 3% drop since 2010, according to census data. An estimated 17,000 vacant houses stand across the city, and experts believe those vacant properties are helping fuel Baltimore's blight and crime.
I don't know where the city's priorities are. It seemed like to me they're more interested in investing in new areas than in repairing neighborhoods that have suffered for a long time.
It is the prime piece of real estate in our city, and it should be doing better.
The Inner Harbor, the jewel of Charm City's tourism district, is now suffering a decline. The Pratt and Light Street pavilions sit largely empty, walled-off shops where once thousands of tourists used to visit.
We've got a private owner who is in receivership, in bankruptcy, Ashkenazi, and it's. I hate to be in this transitional stage because not much happens.
Observers say it's hard for Baltimore to tackle critical problems when the city has struggled to keep leaders in place. Since 2010, Baltimore has had 4 mayors. 2 of them resigned amid scandal.
You know, it's well known. We've had a lot of change in leadership at the police department. There's been instability in City Hall, in the mayor's office as well.
Sheila Dixon was elected in 2007 and resigned in 2010 after being convicted of gift card theft. Stephanie Rawlings Blake, who was city council president, succeeded Sheila Dixon. Rawlings Blake was then elected in 2011 and finished her term in 2016. But she told Fox 45 in September of 2015 she decided not to run for re-election following the Baltimore riots in April of that year.
If Freddie Gray, was still with us and the riots didn't happen, we wouldn't be having this conversation.
And you think you would be running for re-election?
Probably.
Probably so.
And I sincerely want to say that I apologize.
Catherine Pugh was elected mayor in 2016, but in May of 2018, she resigned after it was revealed that she made hundreds of thousands of dollars from the sale of her Healthy Holly book series to the University of Maryland Medical System, money made while serving on the board. Pugh pled guilty in November to 4 of 11 federal charges. They include conspiracy to commit wire fraud, conspiracy to defraud the U.S., and 2 counts of tax evasion. She awaits sentencing. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. The frustration many citizens are feeling spilled out recently at a town hall in Northwest Baltimore.
We got to get it together. It ain't about the panel. It ain't about City Hall. It's about us in the community. We got to take back what was taken from us.
Empower us. Find a way to get those resources to us, because I'm sure we want to help ourselves. We don't want a handout.
The problems go beyond City Hall. Since 2012, Baltimore has had a number of police commissioners: Anthony Batts, Kevin Davis, Daryl D'Souza, who resigned amid a tax scandal, and interim commissioner Gary Tuggle. The current commissioner is Michael Harrison. The department itself is under a federal consent decree after years of unconstitutional policing.
You have a hopeless feeling like, wow, this is just unsolvable.
Dr. Daniel Webster is the director for gun policy and research for Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health in Baltimore. The school has studied violence in Baltimore for 25 years, and Webster says black flight is hurting Baltimore. But he believes reducing violence will prompt people of all races to stay in the city.
That happens at a neighborhood level where it creates disinvestment when violence occurs. Conversely, if you reduce violence, a neighborhood becomes more valuable, right? More people want to be there.
This is so well needed.
Millie Brown is the founder of Tears of a Mother's Cry, a group that helps mothers who've lost children to violence. She says kids are telling us what's wrong through their behavior, but Brown says we're not listening.
I would like to see the city focus on mental health for these children. These children are suffering. These children are crying out. This is the reason why these children are picking up these guns. They're picking up these knives. They're carjacking. They're robbing. They're knocking out people. You know what I mean? These are kids. These children need help.
People want help. Not everybody's trying to be a criminal, and everybody trying to be a killer. People want help.
Residents only do so much.
A city looking for leadership.
They promise you so much, but they do so little.
Looking for results.
I don't trust any of them.
Looking for accountability.
Everybody talk, and ain't nobody doing nothing.
And our kids are left to deal with that.
A city in crisis.
Baltimore, we have to change how people make their decisions to commit crime. That's going to take a community.
A city of untapped potential.